So here we go. So another new recording position, mostly because this is a re-record that I did. I'm pretty sure in the editing I mentioned that during my RE2 video. One of my sister's cats is standing on the deep freeze over there because I don't know why. Interesting backdrop. But yeah, no, the backdrop, I'm sorry, I have no control over that because I don't have control over my sister's cats because of course I don't. Anywho, Xenogears. So I I had recorded a version of this at at the apartment that is now uh, effectively no man's land for me. I have my water. Let's go ahead and just get on with this. Second last of the first season, and then hey, then I can record the last one, and then I can work on season 2. Which, funny enough, that's actually one of the main reasons why there hasn't been too much, from my perspective, too much. Oh my god, gotta hurry, gotta get these recorded because. Well, I've still got a decent chunk of time left before I have to worry about that. In fact, I can bring it up right now because, I finally got, the previous 2 uploaded. I had only Soden upload up to Soden uploaded for a while there, but so now I have up to uh last week, which was the 10th. So you're watching this on the 17th. Now, I may or may not go ahead and just give you a double billing to end season 1 and do kind of a special thing with Legend of Dragoon, just so I can, just because I would love to release a video on Legend of Dragoon on my birthday. That would amuse the shit out of me. From your perspective, that will be tomorrow. From my perspective, that's still, 2.5 months away. I'm recording this in April for a bit of context. But Xenogears. I mentioned on the stream that there were effectively 3 games that I did not want to ever watch Lore stream because it sounded like he was going to bash them. And then, which is funny because Legend of Dragoon actually proved to be a good game. But then, but yeah, no, it was Legend of Dragoon, Xenogears, and Chrono Cross. And it all boils down to one simple thing. I know some people are totally okay with watching somebody bash something, even if they like it, because it helps them to keep perspective. It helps to, for you to realize that there are flaws within any given work, and the position of my mouse was distracting me. It helps to paint, to remind us that even something we love has flaws. And that was something I kind of had to relearn while going through Xenogears, admittedly. But here's the thing. There's only so many times you can watch somebody say, this has not aged well, or this is bad, or, because 40 billion things have done things differently, and we've gotten used to this method that over 20 years, that going back to something from 30 years ago is just, yeah. And I hate the mentality. I hate the idea of somebody bashing something constantly just because they think it's bad. I know the lore runner, is just trying to view it through as objective of a lens as possible, but that bias is still going to kick certain games in the ass. Yes, cough, cough, Mega Man Legends, cough, cough. I'm sorry. I feel like he was way too harsh on the fucking controls. Like, holy fuck. The controls are not that aggravating. They aren't good. I won't say they're good, but he was acting as if there was like zero control. He had zero control over his fucking character. Play Dark Castle on the Genesis and then come back and tell me that. you know. Mm. Although, if you want an example, if you want me to speak on an example that I have actually played, I'll even use a PS1 example. Go play fucking Planet of the Apes, and then tell me that Mega Man Legends 1 has bad character and camera control. One of these days, I'm going to hunt that thing down, and I am going to buy it because, oh, sweet child, would I love to just rip into that fucking game. I have actually beaten that fucking game because it was it was another situation where it was one of the only games I had, believe it or not. But anyways, the reason I bring all of this up as I look up eBay prices. Oh wow, somebody's actually offering an oh wow, $25. Huh. That's not bad. That's actually a fair price. Nice. Anyways, sorry. Ideas for later. Ideas for later. But the point is, the point is that, you know, I like Xenogears, but I will have to acknowledge that Xenogears is flawed. But sitting there and watching Lore bash Xenogears and say that because I know what he's going to say about it, right? He's going to say the encounter rate is too high. He's going to say the combat system is too slow. He's going to say that he's going to say that the game is unbalanced and shit like that. And I'm not going to sit here and watch him do that. Sit there and bash it, right? It's the same reason why, I don't really want to watch him play the Personas, for example. Specifically 4. Now, he has proven that he can be fair. Persona 5 proved that. But the problem, the ultimate problem, is that Xenogears is a game that I love. It is a game that I love. It is not, in the top. It's not in the top anymore. It has dipped. But that's the nature of reviewing things. You go back and, it's not as good as I remember. It has indeed dipped. But at the same time, sometimes you'll review something and it'll be even better than you thought. In 2 of these Wolf Den episodes, which you probably won't see the next. You might not see the next one. I'll just be honest. I might do a season thing where you might actually see, year by year. So season 2 will be in 2024, that kind of thing. Because then that would give me time to, play through and record videos on Trails from Zero, Trails to Azure, Trails of Cold Steel 3, Trails of Cold Steel 4, and Trails into Reverie, because I've already done videos on the rest of the Trails series. Outside of those 5, right? Ironically enough. And yeah, I know there's also Nayuta Boundless Trails and the Kuro no Kaseki duology, but here's the problem with Kuro no Kaseki. It's not in English. So, no. I mean, I could just get an English patch and, play the PC version, but no. Too much hassle. Too much hassle. Xenogears, now, let's get into a couple of things I'm not going to talk about with this game. I'm not going to really talk too much about the behind the scenes stuff because, in case you don't know me, I don't bother with the behind the scenes stuff unless it's something specifically that I want to look up in that interests me. Kind of like it was with Sky One because I was kind of curious about it. But here's what I can tell you. And here's what I can tell you, that originally the Xeno series was all meant to be one contiguous whole. The problem was rights issues got in the way. I dabbled in this a little bit in the in the uh, in the stream, but the long and the short of it is that rights issues basically had it change its name 3 goddamn times. It went from Xenogears to Xenosaga to Xenoblade, right? Because because they were, the development team were, at Square. Then they split off. They went to Bandai Namco, and then Bandai Namco. I don't know what happened with the Xenosagas. Maybe Lore talks about it in his ruminations. I don't know, but he, for whatever reason, it shifted over to Nintendo, and then Nintendo basically was where they stayed. Now, Operation Rainfall, which brought Xenoblade over to the West, could have had something to do with that. I don't know. And for the record, yes, I prefer the Xeno games being dubbed in the UK, as it just because they actually did do effectively an American dub for Xenoblade X, and Xenoblade X was Xenoblade X. A lot of good voice actors in there, and a lot of good performances in there, but which is actually something I will say praise for Xenogears. Xenogears has good voice acting, in my opinion. It does. It doesn't have the best voice acting. It doesn't have, grandiose voice acting that is the best of all time. No. No. God, no. I wouldn't even put it in my top 5 favorite vocal performances list, Nowhere near. Maybe top 20, but even then that's stretching it a little. But I do think it has good voice acting. And I think I can say that about all the Xeno games, honestly. Even Xenoblade X, which was weaker, But the top of the top for me that I have played, because I haven't played Xenoblade 3 yet, would actually be Xenoblades 1 and 2, specifically. So, I have a lot of issues with Xenoblade 2, the fucking core crystal crap. Although that's mostly just down to I hate gacha mechanics, and I always will. And you bet your ass if I ever review Xenoblade 2, it is getting a triple negative for the Blade acquisition gacha system, because fuck that. Get that fucking predatory mobile game garbage out of my single player games and leave it out. Like, I'm sorry, but that is the one thing that keeps me from actually enjoying Xenoblade 2. It is the one thing that just makes me go, get this the hell off my screen. Get this out of my fucking Switch. I don't want to play this anymore. It took me forever to get to the end of Xenoblade 2. And I have no desire to go back to Xenoblade 2, which is actually one of the most damning things I can say at Xenoblade 2's expense, right? And unfortunately, Xenogears kind of falls into that category too. It's not a game I hate, but it is a game I enjoy immensely. But it's not a game that I think it definitely shows its age. I still think it's worthy of a playthrough, but it's got its issues. So let's actually get into it. So let's start with the gameplay. I like the core gameplay. The core combat, the death blow system. I really do. The stamina and death blow systems are great. Learning death blows, not so much. Because to learn a death blow is you do specific button combinations, and then that kind of levels up your stuff. And then when you get it to 100%, then it's just a matter of you have to get to a specific level, and then the death blow unlocks. And with the gear combat, which is what the game mostly focuses on for the most part, uh, the uh, the gears actually learn death blows up to a certain point, and then they just kind of stop. And then you also have to wait for story progress to get other death blows, and it's a whole thing. And I'm not going to bore you with it. I went through it on the stream if you're curious, which is all in the channel. Uh, oh, that's a good point. Should I actually start putting links to the streams? Huh. Because everything, and every Wolfsten episode of the main line, of the game reviews, is stuff that I've streamed. And you can actually go back and watch. The only exception to that actually being the Sky Trilogy, because the Sky Trilogy, original Sky Trilogy VODs got lost. So there you go. Before I could upload them, they were lost. Before I could edit and upload them, I think was why they were taking so long for me to upload. But regardless, yeah. But yeah, I love the death blow system. The death blows are flashy. I will admit this game has a problem with flashing lights. So if you've got photosensitivity, don't play this game. Just gonna go ahead and say it. Don't play this game. You'll thank me later. You know. So just keep in mind, I had to have the flashing lights warning up like almost the entire game, and it was, yeah. I really like the music. Music is really cool. Well, I will not hear otherwise on that. Love fighting in the gears. The gears are actually kind of fun because, admittedly, I've been kind of what I like to call a uh, casual mecha pilot. And anybody who calls me a filthy casual will be banned, because I hate that term. I hate that term in every aspect. Period. It's actually one of the thing that finally got me to unsubscribe from Josh Scorcher again. His hard but fun games. Those people who want those casual difficulties will be called, those those less challenges are called filthy casuals. Okay, yeah, that cemented it. Unsubscribe. Because I don't have the fucking mental capacity to tolerate that. I'll just call it what it fucking is: elitist gatekeeping bullshit. Anyways. You know. There is some stuff that is not very good, which is not very, very good. Not something that is great. There's a real info and game problem. Like the whole learning death blows thing. I had to look that up to see exactly how that worked. Just to name one example. There's a lot of walkthrough-itis for specific things, especially for some of the environmental puzzles. Some of the platforming is kind of bleh. Yeah. Which isn't helped by the fact that your momentum, random encounters will cancel your momentum. So what happens is you will be going around and you go to jump, right? and you have to like jump over a log or something, right? So if an encounter loads, if you get into an encounter while you're running, then your jump will suddenly not work, so you can't jump. Your jump won't happen. And I have had that happen to me where that just makes me fall off a ledge, which means I fall off a ledge and now I have to redo a bunch of jumping, which also has an encounter, which still can make it so that encounters can interrupt me, which means it's going to take even longer. So when you get to a jump, my advice is when you get to a jump, get into an encounter before you attempt that jump. You will thank me later. Trust me. It's kind of annoying. There's some cool boss fights. I do like that the enemies, by the way, in combat, uh, kind of have like their animation changes. So like their character model will kind of go into kind of a kind of stance when they're running low on HP, kind of like when your characters do when they're in the red, right? So that's a nice touch. I didn't like the Fae in the Desert thing. I actually do find that the encounter rate is just way too high. It's one of the only two games that I gave a triple encounter rate negative to. I believe the other one was FF5, but I could be wrong. Yep, encounter rate was 3 negatives in FF5, and then that was one of only two games that got this was the other game that got the triple negative for that. I hate the random enemy mayfly. Accuracy and evasion problems. Okay, let's talk about this for a second. And let's talk about this. Because I don't think I've ever really fully explained why I hate certain RPGs' hit rates. Now, we've all encountered it in RPGs, right? Sometimes your attacks just miss. Well, what I hate is what I call games where it feels like the RNG is deliberately shitting all over you. This is when multiple attacks miss when you feel like they should have hit, regardless if they're yours or the enemies, right? Because again, if you're constantly missing all the time, well, that's not fun. That's the game just saying, nope, you don't get to win. 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 That is the game kicking you in the balls. Straight up. That is the game flipping you the bird and telling you to go fuck yourself. Does that sound like fun to you? Punch yourself in the groin, and see if that's any fun. And I say the reason I specifically shifted that over is because I realized I was doing a male only version of that. But yeah, punch yourself in the groin, regardless of gender. It will fucking hurt. And actually, I shouldn't be encouraging anybody to be doing that because that can be extremely fucking damaging to both genders. It's worthy of note. I do like the animations in this game. They're cool. One other thing I like though, and this is such a minor thing. I'm just going through all the minor stuff that I actually really like. Like before I get to some of the before I really dive into the gear combat. I've said all my piece on the Death Blow system. It's flashy, it's fun. I will get into why I like the gear combat a bit later when I get into talking about some of the boss fights, actually. One minor thing I like is that the points you're on in the game actually has names, and those names will actually be in your save file. which is actually kind of cool because then you can use that to kind of judge how far along you are. And if you need a walkthrough, most walkthroughs actually use the file names as their note sections, which actually works because then you can just find the specific section you're on, and you can just find out what the name of the section you're on is, then and then pull up that part of the walkthrough and go through it. What else gameplay wise? Oh, I guess I do have one more thing to talk about with Death Blows, but I'll save that for my big chunk. I already mentioned the flashing lights. Let's see. There's certain chase sections which are just not very good. Specific boss fights are actually kind of fun. And the NPCs are helpful, which is always kind of fun. Nortune is kind of a pain in the ass to navigate. Not a fan of that. Some of the minor enemies. I love the gear battling minigame. That one's just kind of cool. It's kind of like a 3D arena fighter. It's rough around the edges. I am never going to claim that it's better than Soul Calibur. Pick one. Just straight up pick one. I haven't played Soul Edge, so I can't speak to that one. But yeah, no. You know, if you want an actual good 3D arena fighter, you're gonna go play Soul Calibur or Tekken. Yeah, I had to think about, wait, does Tekken qualify as that? But then it's like, yeah, no, what am I thinking? Yes, Tekken qualifies. So you're going to be going and playing Soul Calibur or Tekken, depending on whether you prefer martial arts or weapon combat. And I do like the card game Men of the Sea, which is kind of a mini game where it's basically speed. You have each player has 4 cards and a thing, and they're giant cards, so you have to run and kind of move them to kind of make it so that they are one up or one down from the cards that are currently on the play field. And you have to try and get them. You have to try to use up all of your cards before your opponent does. And each character kind of has a win quote and a lose quote, and it's actually kind of nice. Only exception to that is Maria, weirdly enough, but I don't need to get into that. I like the sound design. I mean, love the sound effects. Not a fan of Billy having to reload his guns. That honestly gets kind of annoying. I do like that that you are basically reloading packs, but at the same time, if you don't use all 100 shots within a clip of ammo and you swap it out, you've lost however many bullets were left in that clip. Hate that. Never like that kind of crap. I'm pretty sure the first Rainbow Six actually pulled that, and I was not a fan of that there either. Although actually it didn't. Well, okay, it didn't technically, but then again, I don't know Rainbow Six very well. I'm not a shooter guy. Can you tell? The status effect fetish can go away. I do feel powerful in this game. 2+ is worthy of that. Oh, right. Trying to find the Ethos's med bay. Hey, that was annoying. Did not like the transport ship as a dungeon. There are several dungeons in here that I actually thought were fine for the most part. And I know everybody thinks of the sewers as a bad dungeon. I don't know why. I really don't. It's actually a pretty straightforward dungeon if you use the map. So, there's that. I hate this. I hate fighting the giant wells. I'll talk about more of what wells are in the story section. I hate the assault on the Ethos HQ. Frankly, it's annoying. More boss fights. It's a boss fight that I thought was going to be cool, but it was really goddamn annoying. There's my note about Deathblow grinding sucking. I've already talked about that. It's, it's because of the walkthrough-itis nature of it and just the tedium of it. Yeah. Plus, on top of that, Faye, that's another thing I should actually. Speaking of the Deathblow grind, let's actually get into the other reason I don't care for the Deathblows too much. I like the Deathblow system, but here's the thing. This is a similar thing that is in Legend of Dragoon, admittedly. Faye has too many moves. Like, just straight up. His entire window thing is just chock full of moves that he can learn. You will never use half of those. Because, again, the game is more focused on combat. Now, if there was a second, like a sequel, a Xenogears 2, and, the story was continued in Xenogears 2, that would be one thing. But, yeah, no. You know? The camera in the dungeons can be kind of irritating. I do like the encounter design overall, admittedly. I do like Ellie's move Arids because at first I thought they were kind of weak sauce, but for a lot of the random encounters, they were actually kind of working really well, which makes the later scene even more fucking irritating. Not a fan of the tunnels under Shafat. Game's got a grind problem. It's got a status effect fetish. I hate the fight for the Fatima treasure. Really hate the final battle against Shakan. Love the Infinity mode though, which is when you start to get your 7 AP ones. Infinity mode actually lets you, for a few turns, unleash a super death blow on the enemy, and that's actually really fun and awesome. I like fighting the elements. Those are kind of fun. Party members adding specific flavors to the dialogue is always cool. Not a fan of running around Krellion's lab. Or fighting Orphan in Solaris. The Fort Hurricane fight was just fucking awesome. The Sufal Mass, not so much. Though that just goes into the whole boss fights being both good and bad thing that I mentioned before. Not too big of a fan of the interface. I feel Trash has a bit too much health. That particular element's fight can go to hell, although the one right after it is kind of funny. That boss fight, which I do not want to say what it is was actually, he was not very good. Good story beat, but gameplay-wise, it's not good. Then there's the thing where... and then there's the thing that really fucking pissed me off, but that's a story beat. We lose Ellie as a party member, and that's all I'm going to say about that right now. Another boss fight I like. I'm sorry for just rapid firing these, but really I don't have a lot to say until we get to the story section. Not really. I do like the optional dungeon, the Lighthouse Ruins, which you don't really get to explore until you're heading to the final dungeon, basically. By the way, the ultimate freedom point in this game, there's a couple of freedom points, and I gotta be honest with you, they come kind of late. A little too late for my liking. Although I will say I do like fighting. I do like all of the final boss gauntlet. fighting all of those bosses to weaken the final boss. You're reducing how much HP he's got and how many really annoying moves he's got, because the final boss, and yes, I call that thing in Deus. We'll get into who Deus is in the spoiler section. Deus actually has 4 ads, and you can actually fight those ads. But they are effectively keepers of his powers. So if you defeat them, it seals Deus's powers, right? So there's one where he can take your fuel, he can zap your fuel. That's irritating. I will say it is kind of annoying that you have to manage your resources to get rid of these guys, but yeah, there's one that can get rid of a bunch of fuel. There's a massively powerful AoE attack. I didn't write down, and of course I didn't write down all of the things, so let me quickly pull it up. Okay, here we go. So there's 4 of them. There's Sundel, Marlut, Harlut, and Metatron. Defeating Sundel gets rid of the boss constantly healing himself. God, I hate that. Marlut is the fuel drain one I mentioned. Harlut is the heaven anointment technique, and the earthly anointment technique, which let me just double check that. Okay, Harlut is the first one that they mentioned. That's the heaven anointment technique. Space and time move one at a time. Basically, freezes all of your gears except for one. So only one of your gears can move. Metatron, which was the earthly anointment, is a damaging attack on all. It's the weakest of the 4 by far. The constant healing being done, the constant healing as Sundel, as we said, and then of course the fuel drain from Marlut. Now, if you're not understanding why fuel drain is so bad, your gear cannot attack if it has no fuel. So if your enemy can constantly steal fuel and you run out of fuel, that's bad. Now, there's the charge thing, yes, but at the same time, it's like, charge is not really great. I mean, neither are. I don't think the booster. I don't like the booster thing, and the charge is not that great. There's ways to raise how much fuel you gain from charging, which is nice. But it's still just kind of. It more is a mitigation. If you have to sit there and charge your fuel, you're having a bad time. So, yeah. At least in my experience. Of course, if you go too gun-ho with your fuel, that's also bad. I usually save my fuel for like the big heals, which come really late into the game, and that kind of pissed me off in a certain fight against that showed off a certain thing that I've already mentioned already, but we'll get into that story section. Then you fight what is actually the really final battle, which is honestly piss-ass easy. That's why I don't really count it. And I count Deus as the final battle and not Ouroboros, or however the hell you're supposed to say it. And yeah, it looks like that is it. Huh. Would you look at that? I actually been talking more about the gameplay than I did last time. Good, because I am almost at the same timestamp that I ended the entirety of that last freaking thing. I've actually got my other recording here. My other recording was 48 minutes 15 seconds. I am now at and as soon as now is when I'm at 44 minutes and 15 seconds. So there's that. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, but this is your big warning. Spoilers. Spoilers. Oh, wait. I didn't talk about gear combat. Right. I'm not even done. Ah. Okay, so gear combat. Why do I like gear combat so much? This is the last thing I'll talk about, and then I'll segue into story. I've always had a kind of a passing fascination with the mecha genre of anime. And at this point in time, when I was getting into this game, because I obviously didn't play this right when it came out, I played this a few years after, as with like all PS1 games. I'll just go ahead and be honest about that. But I always had this passing familiarity with the mecha genre, and I kind of liked it. Specifically, the Gundam franchise. Now, the reason why I called myself a casual earlier is because Gundam is really where my mecha appreciation is at the moment, right? Sorry about that. Anyways, where was I? Right. So, Gundam, right? And two Gundam series specifically, if I'm remembering correctly. Depending on when this was, I could actually be wrong, but specifically Gundam Wing was kind of the one that piqued my interest, and thus, why this appealed to me, right? Because even the animation style, I'm pretty sure it was Gundam Wing, because even the animation style kind of reminds me more of Gundam Wing, if I'm honest. But I've always liked the mecha genre, so yeah, being able to fight in giant robots and defeat enemies, that's actually kind of a cool concept to me, right? The reason I like the gear combat is that it feels like you feel powerful in the mechs, in my opinion. And what's funny is I actually was like, okay, well, I'm gonna feel like this is gonna be bleh, right? Because I don't remember half of these fights, and they're going to be kind of annoying. And yes, some of the boss fights are pretty not good, or are not good, right? There are several that I don't care for. There's several that are just kind of there. Although what's funny is that some of the boss fights that I remember being royal pains in my ass were not. But here's the thing. The reason why Xenogears got a grind negative from me is money. See, money is really what you need in this game, because for gear combat, it's all about your parts. You want the highest quality parts you can get. You want it to be as high tier as possible, which means the most expensive crap, and that can get irritating, especially if you're doing that for all of your party members, and that means you're going to have to grind. It's grindy, but yeah, you will need it. But I still maintain that this is actually a very interesting. Gear combat is fun for me. The death blows, the air move, like I said, all of that's good stuff. Because again, it just feels good. The story, on the other hand, oh man, I used to adore this story, but not so much anymore. So now that I've gushed about all of that, right? Oh, and I also love unleashing the combos. So actually, one last thing. Sorry, then I swear I'll shut up about the gameplay. Ugh, the death blow combos. So what you can do is if you have any AP left over when you end your turn, it'll store up. So if you get up to 20, you can accumulate up to, I want to say it's 30 AP, and or 28, one of the two, and you use all of that AP. You can unleash a combo that utilizes the 28 AP points using your death blows, which cost a specific amount of AP. So you could judge that based upon the AP you needed to unleash the attack in the first place. So, for example, Raging is triangle X. Triangle is worth 1 point. X is worth 3. It's 4 points, right? It really does feel kind of good to just unleash massive amounts of damage on the enemy. 1,000 damage per go, right? That's another thing Laura's going to bitch about, and it's going to annoy me. Boss HP. I agree that trash has too much HP, but the bosses, no. Not in the slightest. But here we are. It's time for the story. Right. I'm going to go read. So, spoilers. Here we go. There are effectively 5 points I really want to talk about when it comes to the story. Just the 5. I don't really want to get into the nature of this game. This game is in love with its religious symbolism. And to be blunt, the religious symbolism is not why, something like, for example, Neon Genesis Evangelion is something I can't stand. Because it's all about, the writing. And there is some stuff in here that I don't care for, that I don't like. And it drives me up a goddamn wall every time I see it. There is stuff even in here that is just like, what the hell? And it kind of drives me a little batty. And I don't intend to be talking very long about any of these points. But let's talk about why this is the second worst intro I have ever seen in a video game. Both, basically from a story perspective, it's the second worst, because the worst is, of course, FF13. The intro is an excuse plot. It is literally an excuse to just get the ball rolling so that we can just move on with the story. Like, we got to get Faye out of Lahan and, away from everything, his call to action or whatever. And they choose the most cliche and, in my opinion, the most fucking irritating JRPG trope they could fucking do. A legendary power either shows up, in this case, it shows up like in this case, or is discovered by the hero. And now the hero must be cast out. Because you brought destruction upon the village. I am so fucking sick of this trope, it's not even funny. Especially considering 9 times out of 10, the hero getting cast out, when the hero is cast out, their crime was not even remotely their fault. Now, in this case, Faye was partially at fault, yes. But the fact of the matter is that this narrative treats Faye as if he is a monster in this intro, and I hate it, and nothing comes of it. There is a part of me that just hopes that Bard, ruling of A was just like, yo, Faye, live in my kingdom. I'm gonna give you a freaking mansion, or no, better idea. Faye, I am going to make you the frickin' honorary guardian of Nissan or something. Because, spoilers, Ellie is of course, the reincarnation of Sophia, so, it kind of fits. You're Ellie. You're Ellie's true love. If she's the whole reincarnation of the Holy Mother. The people in Lahan are fucking idiots. Idiots. Win-win. I know I'm harping on this, but it really does piss me off because I see it so goddamn often. Like how many goddamn times have we seen? Oh, you need to leave for some freaking thing because we need to cast you out. You don't want to know why I latched on to uh, Trails of Cold Steel and specifically the backstory of Reen Schwarzer so goddamn hard. He literally had a dangerous power or show up, and you know what the village of Ymir did? Embraced him. I mean, they sort of cast him out, but that was more of a, there's this dude named Yunkaf. It's Yunkafai, right? God damn it. Damn it. Now I have to look it up. Ah! Yes. Yes, and it is. It's Yoon Kafai. There's this dude named Yoon Kafai, and he's a weapon master. So go learn swordplay from him, and that'll help you quail this power that you've got sleeping inside of you. And when Reen quits doing that, nobody looks down their nose at him. Actually, that is the source of conflict. Reen is looking down on himself, and everybody around him is like, the fuck? We don't see you that way. You're not a freak or a monster. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the Trail series pulls that a lot, doesn't it? It has pulled that twice, technically, hasn't it? Because of Joshua. For Reen, it was his powers, and for Joshua, when he, left because of his backstory, we spent an entire game dragging him back and being like, hey, you idiot, get back over here. Here. We don't care about your backstory. We're fighting those idiots anyway, so you might as well just come with us. Obviously, it was done a lot more poetically than that, but you get my point, right? Especially with the character of Dan. Dan is just a goddamn irritant. And he's not in enough of the game for him to even be relevant, which is the other side of the equation. I don't got much else to say. I mean, I go over it more in depth in the stream. That intro is just garbage. Herbage. There's a lot of confusing stuff about, identity, identity and, destiny and all that crap. I'm going to kind of leave most of that by the wayside. And I know that basically makes me a hypocrite. But, a lot of it is just so in depth that we would be here forever if I went into each and every intricate detail. I do actually recommend Resonant Arc videos on the subject. Obviously, because it's a podcast, they will go into a lot more depth and detail than I'm going to go into in this video. I would link, I would link the Lore Runner's Rumination on Xenogears, but he's never done one. Jury's still out, and he never will. Jury's still out on whether or not that's a good thing. But anyways, but yeah, no, I really don't like the intro. It feels way too ham-fisted. It's actually one of the reasons I've been having trouble going back to Tales of Grace's F, because that's another one where it's like the main character did nothing wrong, but everybody fucking blames him for shit, and it's like, go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself, game. So then Faye encounters Ellie. I don't like that Faye's angst, because again, I feel like his angst is undeserved, not unearned, because it's earned. It's just it was earned by bullshit, is what it was. I do love the scene where Ellie yells at him and basically calls him a coward, because we find out immediately after. Yeah, that's yeah. Unlike with Celica in Fire Emblem Echoes, where we learned that like 3 or 4 hours later in gameplay. No, we find out immediately that who she was really yelling at was herself. Look, Alma and Celica may be teenagers, but the only reason I don't rail against that scene even fucking harder is because it's fucking dumb, and 99% of the stupid in that scene is all on Celica. If they were both over emotional and both making accusations at each other, that'd be one thing. But no, watch that scene again. It's all Celica shoving accusations and insults at Alm the entire fucking conversation. God, I hate the end of Act 2. Of Echoes. Ugh. But no, in Xenogears, it's actually she calls herself out on it, and that's what she's really doing. Although I will say that there is a bit too much plot armor in this game. the Rancor dragon, the T-Rex thing that attacks Ellie, is a great example of that. Don't much care for Faye in this thing. And then there's Graf. So Graf is a seeker of power. He is also either Lacan, or he is the culmination of all of the different versions of Lacan over the years. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Graf idea. I feel like he would have worked better if he had just been if we had just straight up been he had just been straight up Lacan, as the game hints at several times. But his final scene just confuses the shit out of me. And that's why I hate it. And on top of that, Graf also just his only purpose in the story is to show up and be like, "Here, I'm going to grant you this boss an upgrade because fuck, because fuck decency." Yeah, most of the boss fights that I hate are boss fights that end up with him showing up, or tend to be the ones where he shows up. I do like Bart as kind of a disgraced prince trying to reclaim his kingdom. That's kind of cool. Cool. I like Sigurd. Sigurd's an awesome character. Victor with some history with C10. I haven't even mentioned the doc yet, but yeah, I like C10. C10's cool, and I like that they pulled the whole "is he a double agent?" He's a double agent. No, he's not. The whole triple agent thing. And I also like Balthazar, who ends up being Maria's grandfather. Old Man Ball is actually kind of cool in his fear of Weltall. We get hints of Faye's power when he destroys Calamity. I like Old Mason. He's cool. I do like that Bard. Everybody's like, we should help Bard and his allies, and Faye's just like, piss off. If I don't want to fight anymore, I don't want to fight. And then Bart just kind of sets him straight and is like, "Look, I know you're going through some crap, and I'm sorry for imposing on you, but honestly, it does kind of feel like you're running away. I'm not saying that helping me is the opposite of running away, but it feels like you don't know what to do, so you just want to just go crawl in a hole and just stay there, and that's not healthy. Got to move on, man. You got to move forward, man. Don't look back, just move forward." It's a nice touch, and it's actually one of the reasons why I like Bart as a character. I also like how the scope and scale like it is got across with the size of like ships and terrain and stuff. It's good stuff. Then we're introduced to Ramses, Miang, and Shakan. Oh, and Margie. But we'll get into Margie in a bit. Let's start with Shakan. I hate Shakan. And he is such a. The lore runner has a term known as a krennic. It's named after a scientist in Star Wars, specifically the one who designed the Death Star. Krennic believed with all of his might that the Death Star was the perfect weapon and nothing would ever top it. Yeah. The Force says hi, Krennic. Which was even demonstrated in the first movie in A New Hope, if you remember. Use the Force, Luke. Let go, Luke. Luke, turn off targeting computer. Luke, you turned off your targeting computer. What's wrong? Nothing. I got this. Win. Yeah. So, yeah, Shakan's just a big Krennic. I like Ramses, although, for the most part, his revenge thing just kind of falls flat on its face after a while. Like, it gets old, is what I'm trying to say. But otherwise, it's good stuff. Miang turning out to be effectively the true villain of the game. Now, that's an interesting idea. I like how we escape from Fatima with the Sandcrawler. I like the character of Choo Choo, the little adorable little mascot. I named her Neko. Giga Neko, Kaiju Neko, which is just scary when you think about it, in a good way. I love the humor, by the way. There's a lot of good humor in this game. So then we head to Nissan, and we discover Sophia's portrait, which is funny because C10 points out something that's kind of interesting and weird, and Faye does too, in the complete opposite direction. C10 points out this is very similar to your painting style, Faye. And Faye points out that Sophia looks exactly like Ellie. Yep, because, reincarnation is a thing, as I said. So then we get into Sigurd and C10's backstory about how they escaped from the nation known as Solaris. They were part of the military force, the Gebler. Well, actually, I think Sigurd was part of the military, and then C10 was a civilian thing. But they both got out because they saw what Solaris was doing, and they just didn't like it, so they fled. And that pissed Ramses off something fierce, which makes a lot of his desire for revenge make a lot of sense, especially when Id kind of wrecked his shit. Yeah. Also, I don't like the flow of the text. It's kind of annoying. And I really don't like Ellie's unit. I feel like they are a bunch of nothing burger characters that need to go away. I will say I do like the fight against Ellie in her Gear the Verge when she takes the drug Drive, which is a combat enhancement. I forget the term, but yeah, that fight. That fight's annoying in gameplay, but it really is kind of cool it's a good story beat in story to kind of show why, hey, other people can go first. We've always got to have a Vander in the Xenogames, and unfortunately for Xenogears, that's Vander Calm. Calm. And he is a giant nothing burger. I like big guns. Firing big guns is my strategy. That is all I ever do. That is all that is my only strategy. Yeah. Although fighting his mech, the Dora, is actually kind of cool. So this is where we first get in, where Id shows up for the first time. We don't even know who he is or what he looks like. And the eggs are still when Bart starts losing to him. The Yggdrasil jumps on top of him. Now that's Id, so that was a huge mistake, but that was an awesome scene regardless. Dropping an entire sand cruiser on me is not fair. Here, have it back. Yeah. So then Faye wakes up in Nortoon. We are introduced to Rico and to Hammer. The Nortoon section is actually kind of good as we kind of see that, Solaris aren't the only greedy bastards in the world. So that's pretty cool. Then there's some murders that happen. We go and we deal with that. Then Weissman gives us some advice. It's about the difference in mass, which then leads to Rico being defeated. I also don't like. Did I really write Steyer's henchmen? And Rico's henchmen are annoying. Then, of course, Gebler attacks Nortoon, planning to basically nuke the place. And I like that Faye just looks at Ellie and is like, "What are you doing?" And convinces her, yeah, no, she needs to get the hell out of Gebler. The military, specifically. Then they get Then after they escape Nortoon, Faye and Ellie get separated, and they end up on the sneeze. no, they end up on the Thames. And I like the captain of the Thames. He's pretty cool. Not a fan of Dominia, as she really feels like she has a bone to pick with Ellie, and it feels like it's almost like she wants to bang Ramsus, and it's like, well, then why do you hate Ellie so goddamn much? Ellie does not want to bang Ramsus. Far from it. you know. Yeah, Dominia by herself, it was just kind of. I like the elements fine, especially. Did I write down their names? No. No, apparently I did not. That's disappointing. Nope. I need to look it up. God damn it. There we go. Especially Talon and Seraphitia. The fight against Talon and Seraphitia. Because honestly, I love their dialogue, right? Their dialogue back and forth. One of them literally says, because apparently one of them is an android, is like, oh, gee, I think it's Talon. So Seraphitia is like, oh, gee, Talon, you are really smart. Your gin and tonic brain is awesome. And she's like, that's positronic brain, you dolt. Gin and tonic brain. That makes me sound like some weird random drunk. Although the positronic brain is going to get us in trouble with Star Trek, the creators of Star Trek. They spell it differently, but that is the joke. It's like we're going to get in trouble with Paramount over Star Trek. All I'm going to say to that is hashtag screw CBS. Anyways, so then they head to the ethos. So then Ellie is brainwashed, which unfortunately leads to Dominia nearly drowning Faye. And then this is when we're introduced to Josiah, Primera, and Billy. Jesse, Prim, and Billy. I do not like Jesse. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. I feel like he's too much of a jackass. Just a little bit too much. Yes, he has a point, but you can have a point and still be a goddamn jackass. One of the things I will say about Jesse is it's too much. He comes across as a bit too abrasive, and it leads to some cutscene incompetence when he explains all of this crap, and then, and then he, you know, I don't like. I also don't like Billy, as I feel he is just way too gullible. So yeah. He gives. I don't like his advice. I do like Billy describing his backstory, though, as to why he trusts the ethos. That's cool. I love the scene where the kids in the orphanage launch Billy's gear. That's just awesome. It has some. It's like the seesaw is actually is part of the mechanism apparently, and it's like, wait, what? Is that like actually how that works, or is it just so the kids can feel like they're contributing? And really what just happens is one of them hits a button, and then that like starts the seesaw flow effect, and then them doing the seesaw is symbolic, right? I don't know. Oh, but I look at that and it's so goofy and dumb, and I love it. It's awesome. So we deal with the Wells, who I'm just gonna go ahead and spoil this, are basically mutated humans that are wandering around. Yeah, you need to release them from their torment, because it's effectively similar to being a part of the Borg. Ooh. Hate the giant whales fight. Then the Ethos HQ is assaulted. Gee, I wonder why, considering they're basically at the head of. They're basically Solaris lapdogs, is effectively what it is. And they want to stop being Solaris lapdogs. And so Solaris is not liking that. Because of course they wouldn't. And of course Billy has his, this makes no sense. And it's like, yeah, this is a Yevon situation. Man, how I wish it wasn't the Church of Yevon. I wish you were more. It was more to the church's, the Septium Church, but yeah, this isn't Zamoria. Sorry, Billy. Anywho, I do like the exposition from Verlaine and Stone, even though it's got cutscene incompetence. So that's pretty cool. The Gazelle Ministry has been popping up here and there for basically most of the game, and I haven't really been commenting on them. Mostly because they are just there. There's like nothing to them. We will ascend to godhood, even though we're just ghosts in a machine, basically. Ugh. Oh, right there. Talon Serafiti. I didn't even have to look it up. Aw. God damn it. Anyways, yeah. So then Id shows up and kicks our asses. So that's kind of cool. Um, Then we deal with the Tower of Babel to ascend to Shavat. Then we're introduced to Maria and Zybzen. And then we meet with Queen Zypher. Then Solaris attacks Shavat, because of course they do. And then we have the epic scene between Maria and Axen, who, I mean, it's pretty obvious that that Axen is not really her father. It's just kind of being programmed to sound like her father. But I can kind of get why she would be confused and not really grasp that concept. Choo Choo helps out. Maria gets the confidence. Saibzen defeats Axen. And Maria is forced to say goodbye to her father. Ouch. Just ouch. Ouch. Not much for me to say, but yeah. I do like talking to the people, to the Nissan people in the mausoleum, because they have to go under the mausoleum to deal with Shakan. And he just kind of reassures them that, yeah, no, we'll deal with Shakan. We'll deal with this. He's got nothing to worry about. It's a nice touch. Then we fight for the treasure. We get a hold of the Omni Gear, the first Omni Gear, and then Shakan. We fight Shakan at the gate, at the gates that we're trying to destroy to get to Solaris, and it's irritating. Then we deal with the elements. The translation starts to rear its head of being kind of bad. Krellian shows up, and we get a Lacan and Krellian flashback. Then we're introduced to Ellie's parents. It is heavily implied that Ellie's birth mother was a maid who was the equivalent of a commoner, a land dweller, a lamb, as they're referred to, is in a derogatory sense. And admittedly, I'm sure that is, and that confrontation is kind of ridiculous, and I was kind of hoping it would be followed up on to kind of show that Ellie doesn't actually have resentment towards her parents. It was a moment of passion and all that stuff. There's some good interactions between Faye and Ellie when she goes home, but yeah. One thing I will say that but of course Ellie's parents have to die, because why have parents in an anime? Am I right? They either have to be shit or they have to be dead. One of the two. Because why not? So then we go through Krellian's lab and find out about the Soylent system, which turns people into wells. Hills. I've already talked about that. Then the gang are all captured by Solaris. This is where we find out C10 is a double agent. Oh no! Everybody manages to get out. Ramses randomly showing up and bitching out C10 and Sigurd is kind of random and kind of not great. Then Ellie is told about Id when Id breaks free. Because why not? And then Hammer betrays he's the team for Krellian. I like this because it is Hammer not understanding how bad of a decision that was. And I understand it. He was desperate. Hammer was a desperate man. And he had to make a choice. I would say he chose poorly, but that is admittedly just my opinion. So, yeah. So Ellie's parents die. Because, of course. Then Ellie has to be told about Ed. And then Shavat decides they just want to seal Faye away because let's just lock this problem up. Because that's never backfired on because that never backfires on anyone in fiction ever, except for every fucking time it happens. Anyways, so then Faye and Ellie get out of there. This is where we start to learn about the eternal love. We're introduced to Torah. No, not that Torah. The Xenogears Torah. Taura. Hey. Then a bunch of crap happens, and we enter the second disc, which a lot of people have complained that a lot of it is truncated because you're basically just sitting there and reading walls of text. This is also why these reviews are not full-on recaps of every plot point, by the way, because, oh god, we'd be here forever, and I really don't want to deal with all of that. So, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of Disc 2. Disc 2 is a whole lot of explaining, it is tying in the whole Ellie is the reincarnation of Sophia thing. We learn more about Krellian's backstory, about Lacan's backstory, about about the whole backstory between Krellian, Lacan, and Sophia. Krellian is, of course, hundreds of years old, because we always have to have at least one character that's hundreds of years old. Why not? We learn about the eternal love, Ellie, making speeches and basically becoming for real the reincarnation of Sophia. It's all it's interesting stuff, but it's presented pretty badly. Let's be blunt. I have to admit, I got fatigued after a while going through all of it, so it kind of led to a problem. Then Hammer's betrayal becomes complete when he basically goes to Krellian and is like, I want power to match Bro, which is what he calls Faye. That fight is kind of irritating because of his self-destruct. Because he basically, after a few turns, self-destructs, and it's like, oh, fuck. Okay. Oh, well. And, well, for that, right? But I do like that Hammer realizes that he caved into his own weakness and that he knew he just couldn't win, but he had to take his shot. And you know what's funny? This is still better than the betrayal in Hellsing. Specifically Hellsing Ultimate and the manga. Look, I know it's better explained in the manga. I don't care. It was a dumb betrayal. Moving on. And his reason was also crap too, in my opinion. As presented in Hellsing Ultimate. Again, probably better in the manga, but at the same time, I should not have to read the frickin' manga to understand the backstory. Anyways. But yeah. But then this leads... So, you know how I said that there were like 5 talking points? The whole ethos being in an arm of Solaris, that was one. The intro, the whole Solaris bit, the whole ethos bit, excuse me. Ramses, I wanted to speak about Ramses a bit. Id, which we're still yet to talk about this point, so really it's just the intro, Id, briefly on Ramses, the ethos stuff, and this point right here. Because this is where we've been, where Faye decides he wants to bench Ellie. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I hate this plot point. Back in FF4, I complained about the whole scene where Cecil was like, Rosa and Rydia, you need to stay behind, right? I got really angry at that, if you remember. Well, it's the exact same thing here, except worse. Because at least there, Cecil was just being an idiot. And was genuinely concerned for people he cared about. It was still dumb, and it was still kind of sexist, because he was only telling the women to stay behind. If Edge had been included in that, at least that would have made some semblance of sense. But no, Edge was coming with them, and I'm like, at least we could have made this out to be like a guilt thing between you and Kane to go and deal with this, but whatever. The reason I'm so angry at benching Ellie is because Faye's reason is even fucking worse. Here's the thing. He benches her basically because he's in love with her. Let's just say it as bluntly as we can. And that's fucking stupid. There is a legitimate argument he could make to him staying behind. He doesn't make that argument. He says he wants her to be his reason for coming home. That's fucking awful. Especially considering you have seen her in combat. And especially considering the very next thing that fucking happens is you walk into a goddamn trap and Krillian captures you. Which forces Ellie to come out and try and save you, which gets her captured anyway. So what the fuck was even the point? It boggles my goddamn mind how bad that is. And it was the thing that pissed me off the most. And I didn't even remember how much that was going. I didn't even realize how much that was going to anger me until I got there, because it was like, moving on, and it's fucking stupid. Moving on. So then we deal with some shit. Ellie gets bullied. Well, I guess it's not right after, but it is like almost immediately after. Ellie, of course, uses the Omnigear, which she's been resisting. I do like Ramses' memory. I don't like his obsession all that much. I've already talked about that. And then Ellie becomes Miang. And we learn the truth about Deus, because I haven't talked about the anime cutscene that happens right at the beginning of the game, where Deus basically busts open and basically turns a ship of people into the ancestors of an entire planet's human population. Yeah. So then we get the long ass Krellian and Lacan flashback, which is just too damn long, in my opinion. Like, seriously, it feels like it should have been a playable section, not unlike Torn of the Golden Country, but it feels like it was almost cut. And it almost feels like they should have chopped it down a little bit, because really the only information that happened was revealing that Lacan and Krellian cared about Sophia, and the decisions that they made from that point on that led them to this point, So, then we get this, and then we just get the truth about how Faye's mom, the reason why Faye's mom died. Right? There's all this crap with Graph that I'm not even going to go into. We learned the truth about Ed, about how he's a personality that is fighting for control of Faye's his consciousness. There is an optional scene with Choo Choo where he is missing Ellie. That's a nice scene. That's a nice touching scene. I do like the optional scene if you go to the Lighthouse Ruins for the memory of Kim. If you go and get all of that, Emeralda, who I haven't even mentioned at all because there's not much to say about her, gets a growth spurt. I wonder if there's anything like that in the Xenosaga games, because in Xenoblade 2, there's actually a thing that happens with that too. Maybe this is what they were calling back to. I don't know. So then we go and deal with the final boss. Then Faye and Krillin, Lacan and Krillin basically, have their final debate, which is actually kind of a nice little touch. The whole faith in humanity thing. Krillian's just like, yeah, alright. I'm done. The ending is very nice, as is basically the entire outro, I will admit. But it's just, there was a lot of crap to get to that point. It's all good stuff. I actually kind of like it because it is, and you know what else I like about it? The same thing I hate about Neon Genesis Evangelion. The heroes actually succeed because God was just a freaky alien. And we didn't have, and we weren't so completely outmatched that it was ridiculous. Despite having giant robots, which we, for some dumb reason, have to put teenagers into because why not? Regardless, that is it for Xenogears. For real this time. An hour and 40 minutes. Much better. I feel like I actually elaborated on some points. I feel like I actually discussed more points in this one. There's not a lot more I can say. Like I said, I didn't want to go in depth in this video with a lot of stuff because we're already at the 1 hour 40 minute mark, for God's sakes. And that's just with all the stuff that I've already discussed, right? And I more wanted to discuss character points anyway, rather than, the symbolism and all that crap, But that's it. One more to go. Just one. And I admit I am actually more nervous about doing that, talking about Legend of Dragoon, than I was about Xenogears. And that's just mostly because I kind of sung Legend of Dragoon's praises a lot more than Xenogears. Regardless, I'm chopping this off. I will see you next time for the final video of season 1 of Wolf's season 1 of Wolf's Den. Till next time, Blue Wolf Alex the Lore Walker signing out. Have a good one. Later.